Pete here from the Aussie English Classroom. In this tutorial, I want to run you through how the courses work, how they're laid out, and I guess give you some advice on how I would complete them. So you can click up the top here on all courses, or you can click on the left-hand side here in this menu to go to My Courses if you've already enrolled in some, but we'll start with all courses. I believe once you go in, you get automatically enrolled into all the courses so that you have access to every single one, okay? But the My Courses section should probably only show the courses that you have begun. So let's just pick a random course, or you'll see each of them come out here. The most recent ones are at the bottom. So you can click down here on the To Blow the Whistle course. And I guess I should add, the numbers here correspond to the episode on the podcast, okay guys? So it's not the number of courses that are on the Aussie English Classroom, it just corresponds to the material on the podcast so that I can keep track of that, and so that if you want to go and check out the podcast, you can easily find the episode, okay? So this is the basic course front page. So to get started, you can read about the course here, you can see how far through you are, how many steps you've completed as you go through. You can read a little introduction about the course and the material that it's going to cover. For instance, this one covers the content from the podcast episode AE384. You can check it out by clicking this link. And it also has obviously lessons and quizzes in it, and it goes through the film Razzle Dazzle and talks a bit about the discovery and early migration in Australia. So the most important part though is that you have these lessons. These are the course lessons. I would suggest starting just from the top and then going through, because you'll start with the listen and read exercise. You'll listen to the podcast, you'll read the podcast at the same time, and then you can complete the listening comprehension quiz, and then you can go through all the other exercises. However, guys, you can do these in any order that you choose. So if you want to click and start with grammar down the bottom here, you can, or you can start in the middle with pronunciation or Aussie slang, or you can start with the listen and read section. So let's go through and just start with listen and read, and I'll show you how it's outlined. So there's just a bit of intro here telling you how to use this lesson. In this lesson, you can do any combination of listen and reading to the podcast. I suggest listening once or twice without reading, and then listen and reading at the same time to pick up anything you might have missed. So I want you to focus on finding the new vocab, and then obviously to complete the listening comprehension quiz at the bottom. So the way it's laid out at the moment is that you can click play here to get the lesson playing, and then you can scroll down in order to read whilst you listen. Now, all the interesting vocabulary in these lessons that I've decided to target in the glossary at the bottom is in blue, and the text in red is the Aussie slang, which you will be able to go and learn in the Aussie slang lesson. Okay, so you're scrolling down, you're reading this episode, you'll go through all the way to the bottom. Once we get there, you've got a vocab list here with all of the vocab that was in blue. So you can look up any of these words or phrases that you were finding difficult or interesting, and it'll give you the definition of them. And then at the very bottom, you can click to start the listening comprehension quiz. So let me click that. So this will just have the MP3 at the top here. You click play, and then you click start quiz, and it'll have the questions just here for you to select and then go to next. So you can do this as you listen, and all of the questions are in order. So they should come up as you listen in sequence. If you need to pause at any time, I've tried to make it so the quizzes are small and you click next to get to the next one instead of scrolling down, so that you can go up and pause at any time. Okay, so I hope that's useful, but definitely complete these listening comprehension quizzes. It seems to be what everyone's really enjoying. Let's go through the phrasal verb exercise. So often I have a substitution exercise or a phrasal verb exercise. The purpose of these is to practice you switching in different words and speaking out loud. Okay, so for instance, in this phrasal verb exercise, we were working on phrasal verbs that take the particle on after them, And so you have to complete these sentences here by listening to the audio up here when you click play and joining them together by adding on into the sentences. So this is an active speaking exercise. Despite there being no one there that you're talking with, the purpose of these exercises is to get you to speak at home and chat, practice pronunciation, practice talking, and form those pathways where you're using English. Have those pathways ingrained in your brain. So that's the purpose of the phrasal verb exercise. Let's go to the Aussie slang exercise. So in this exercise, I'll have all of the slang words that I've used in the listen and read exercise. So in the transcript, any of the stuff in red that you saw whilst you were reading, there'll be the definition here of that slang term and then an example sentence so that you get the context of how it's used, and you can practice by speaking these out loud. You could read, a ciggy, that's a cigarette. I love to smoke ciggies. Okay, so there's a good practice. And then there's a quiz at the bottom. So you can click on this quiz, and what you'll get for this quiz is a number of sentences with a word missing, and you have to pick which slang word is missing. Okay, so I'm going to have a something outside. Obviously it's not ute, it's not ref, it's ciggy. And click next. Do you want milk in your footy? Ref, it's cuppa. Okay, so you get the idea there, and that's a good way of reinforcing that Aussie slang that you've just learnt about in the transcript. Let's go through the pronunciation exercise. So in the pronunciation exercises, I'm really breaking these down now to focus on a single aspect of the Australian accent. At the moment, we're going through all of the different vowels that are pronounced in Australian English. So for instance, this one is You'll have an MP3 here that you can click, and that's going to read through this list of words. So you can see the spelling here. There's sometimes two words with the same pronunciation, and then you can see the IPA on the right hand side. So this is a really good way to practice your pronunciation if you like an Australian accent. Now, in the connected speech section in this lesson, this is tied in with the pronunciation one. More recently, I've been breaking down the entire listen and repeat section. So for example, in this podcast episode, we had these listening and repeat exercises with I blew the whistle on him, you blew the whistle on him, and I've gone through and systematically broken down the connected speech that I used in that listen and repeat exercise. So I think this stuff is really going to be of use for you guys in order to practice speaking like an Australian. So for example, the first one here, to becomes t, so we practice that 5 times, to, t. The next one, we practice the pronunciation of words with STL in them, because obviously whistle was in this exercise today, so whistle. STL isn't istul, it's sul. We then go through in the third section, the dark L versus the light L. This is another aspect of Australian pronunciation. Then the H deletion, where the H can disappear from words. And then we practice all of it with an Australian accent, both slow at the start here and then at a fast natural speed in the second part there. So that is the connected speech section. Last but not least, we have the grammar section. So this is where you will learn a small aspect of English grammar, and we'll go through again a speaking exercise. So you have the MP3 at the top here. It will cover every single thing I say that's written on this page, and then you'll have the exercise down here to try to complete out loud, speak that out loud as you're listening to the MP3. So that is the basic thing. That is the basic thing with these courses, guys. You can complete them in any order. You don't have to just start with the very first one. So on the all courses page up here, you could start with this one, not worth a Zac, or you can go right to the bottom and you could start with to blow the whistle on someone. You can do that in any order you would like. And then when you go into these lessons, you can complete the lessons in these courses in any order you like as well. However, for simplicity's sake for you guys, I would suggest just starting and doing them in order. Start with the listen and read, and then just systematically go through And so that is how to use the All Courses section in the Aussie English Classroom and how I would suggest completing each course.